I'm so excited that you are all here. This is one of my favorite UNA NCA events because it's all about the members. One of the first things I want to do, though, is something that, and I'm just going to give credit to Jill Christensen, and I just think as we celebrate our 250th, it's even more important to remember the lands on which we are. So thank you to Jill and Danielle and the advocacy team for helping us to get that done. And again, I'm going to welcome you all here. It's great to see you all. We have a little rain that has held off so everyone could get here. And I've heard that it may come in 60-minute bursts later on. So be ready to run for your car. Speaking of running for your car, I have an administrative announcement because I did not realize this. But if you park in the parking garage next door, it closes at 9. So I have set my alarm for 8:45, and I will try to remind you all because otherwise you will find another way home. So why do I say this is one of my favorite events? One reason is we look back at our year, we honor our members who have really worked a lot during the year, we celebrate all our members, and we find out the results of the election of the board, and we celebrate all the successes of the year. We are a membership organization, and as such, the more our members are engaged in programs, the stronger that UNA NCA is, and the stronger we support locally. We embrace the concept of thinking globally, acting locally, which mirrors the UN Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. Through our programs, the programs that you all work on and support, we bring understanding of worldwide challenges and address them through practical, community-driven actions. It is so important at this particular time that we take time out of our daily lives to gather and support the important challenges of the world that not only impact us, but truly future generations. So as I get started, first of all, I would like to thank UN Foundation and UNA USA for lending their space and ongoing support. I have the pleasure tonight to introduce or to show you the new director, Executive Director Faith Cooper. Where did Faith go? I think she stepped out for a minute, but when I see her, I will reintroduce her. And she's very excited about being here. She just got started. I also want to recognize some special guests we have in the audience. Of course, Ambassador Michelle Sisson, who will be our speaker. Ambassador Christantos Obama-Udno and Minister Counselor Mr. Victor Manuel Eleala from the Embassy of Equatorial Guinea, members of the Diplomatic Corps, Dr. Esther Bremer, and previous board chairs. It's so exciting we have so many in the room. Steve Mosley, Karen Mulhauser, Jim Christensen, and Don Bliss and Ed Elmendorf are online. And also distinguished guests, members, and new potential members. So I did notice, just to put Faith on the spot, Faith, if you come on in, I just want to show everybody that you are here. You're going to be seeing Faith a lot more, but she just got started. Would you like to say anything?
Sure, I'll just say a word or two. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
It's an absolute pleasure and honor to join this amazing organization, one that I have deeply admired and respected for a long time. I believe I'm here for a purpose, and that's what you all do every day. It's really advancing the work of the UN, and it happens at the community level. So I'm so excited to join you to do this. I have some connection to this chapter. I see Patrick somewhere. Where are you, Patrick? So years ago we did the
the Sustainable Development Committee.
Absolutely. So the SDG is important, but you never know how your life comes full circle. I mentored a fellow, but Patrick and I met doing, I think, a World Refugee Day program. He just reminded me it was 2017.
Wow.
And what, 8, 9, don't count my math, but 8, 9 years later, here I am standing in this capacity as Executive Director of UNA USA. So I'm deeply grateful for this opportunity, but excited to bring both my personal experience as a former refugee, but also professionally, over 20 years in the international humanitarian assistance sector. So I look forward to working with each of you to advance our mission, and I believe it takes a collective and collaborative effort, and it will rely on each of us putting our best foot forward, especially in this climate. So thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to it.
Thank you very much. I'm so excited that you're here. And so now I have the honor and privilege to introduce a leader and champion for the UN and for multilateral affairs. And I also want to thank her because Ambassador Michelle Sisson, her leadership, her longtime partnership with UNA, and truly her friendship. As of, some of you may not know this, I have read her bio before because she's received an award, but she has a new job. So as of February 10th, 2025, Michelle Sisson now serves as Director of the Global Office of the International Organization for Migration. And if you live in DC, you call it IOM, because we only, things by their initials. There at IOM, she leads efforts to strengthen partnerships and engagement with US-based institutions focusing on humanitarian affairs, migration, and conflict prevention. Prior to IOM, Ambassador Sisson served as Assistant Secretary of State for International Organization Affairs. That is where we worked closely with her, and she supported Model UN and many of our other events. She also served as U.S. Ambassador to Haiti from February 2018 to October 21, and as U.S. Deputy Representative to the United Nations from 2014 to 2018. Where there, she helped build global coalitions to counter transnational threats to peace and security, and advocated for a more effective, efficient, and accountable UN and multilateral system. She has long experience with UN peacekeeping and the UN entities responsible for development, humanitarian relief, and human rights. Ambassador Sisson served as U.S. Ambassador to Sri Lanka and the Maldives, 2012 to 2014, U.S. Ambassador to Lebanon, 2008 to 2010, which is where I initially met her doing USAID work, and U.S. Ambassador to the UAE. She's the recipient of the U.S. Presidential Distinguished Service Award, the U.S. Presidential Meritorious Service Award, and the U.S. Department of the Army's Outstanding Civilian Service Medal. These are all unique awards that are very rare for someone to get and to hold all of them. She also holds numerous U.S. Department of State awards, including ambassadorial level awards for her contributions to counter-proliferation and combating trafficking in persons. You can see she has a wide breadth of experiences and contributed in many ways. And finally, she holds the rank of Career Ambassador, which is the highest rank in the U.S. Foreign Service. So please join me in welcoming Ambassador Sisson.
Thank you very much, Anne. I mean, really the punchline there, as Paula well knows, is after 43 amazing years at the U.S. State Department, following also in Dr. Brimmer's footsteps, I have too much energy to just retire after 43 years. So I jumped over to the UN side because the International Organization for Migration, IOM, is the UN Migration Agency, for those of you who didn't know that. So I am thrilled to be back here with you all. I am a big fan of what you all do and of the community participation and of this amazing outreach to students and youth. And for the diplomatic corps representatives who are here tonight, I just think it's really cool that we have middle schoolers as well as high schoolers involved at Model UN. And global classrooms. And we'll talk about our support for that in a minute as well. But all of you here this evening are here because of your interest in and dedication to helping the world. And, I think the UNA NCA community is just a terrific community, and I love the slogan. We've got one slogan up on the banner here, but the other slogan I really love is a stronger UN, a better world, make a difference. And you're here because you want to make a difference, and you do make a difference. And I will say we at IOM, because I'm an IOMer now, UNer now, we're proud to support the flagship education program, Global Classrooms, which of course, and you're going to hear from the participants a little later in the program this afternoon, which engages students in learning about the United Nations and learning about global issues and helping these young people develop into globally aware citizens. And I love the fact, because now we're a sponsor at IOM of Global Classrooms, and we're proud to be a sponsor. I've signed up for next year too. We love the facts, yeah. We love the facts that the students have told us that they really value the opportunity to work with others from different backgrounds on these complicated issues and to hear and learn about different perspectives. Because really, isn't that what diplomacy is all about? And that's really what life is all about as well. And for the educators involved, they've told us that they see that their students are more likely to engage in more meaningful discussions on these topics. Maybe they hear something on the radio in the car or see something on TV, but now they're more informed. They can engage. So I did meet many of you in my last position as Assistant Secretary for International Organization, critical role of the United Nations in maintaining international peace and security, in resolving and preventing conflicts, in improving humanitarian delivery. Now, I've spent the last 2 days across the street at the World Bank at the Fragility Forum, and we have delegations from all over the world. We have all of the UN agencies. We have the World Bank, the Asian Development Bank, the Inter-American Development Bank, and so forth. All over there talking about fragility as a result of violence in a country or a result of conflict in a country. FCV is what they call it, fragility, conflict, violence. This landscape can be depressing because there are a lot of hot spots in the world. And we've been talking for the last 2 days about the impact on poverty reduction, the impact on development. But you know what? It's really the impact on people, which is why what you're doing, the people-to-people element, I think is just so important. And I think we also agree on the need for all of us to really lift up that imperative that the UN continue to be focused and effective given the number of challenges around the world. I'm really sorry I missed Model UN this year. I've been at the last 2 or 3. I was on an IOM trip out in East Asia, but I know that our Washington IOM deputy, Jeanette, tremendously enjoyed being with the students and the educators. Now, Paula, you asked me to say a few words on the challenges and opportunities that we're facing today. And I'm going to take this opportunity, because I am IOM, to talk a little bit about the state of migration, but also like how that impacts some other areas that you wouldn't even maybe think of, including global health security. When you talk about people on the move and borders, it impacts everybody, everywhere. So people on the move, this is not a new concept. People have been moving, even before there were borders, from time immemorial. Displacement is not new. For so much of history, people have been fleeing conflict or religious persecution or natural disaster, a flood, a drought, an earthquake. And around the world, actually, it's not what we see in the headlines all the time. Around the world, most migration is regional, within a region, or even within a country, internal displacement. And the majority of migration is actually safe and orderly. But where we see the headlines is when it's not. Where we see the headlines is where we see these challenges related to conflict or violence, this fragility. But for a moment, let's also remember that in so many places in the world, and we see this as IOM, whether we're talking Europe or East Asia, we see shortages, labor shortages, an aging population. So there's an identified need for healthcare workers, or elder care workers, or hospitality industry workers. So you see employers in many of the most advanced countries looking to address these labor shortages in specific sectors, these labor shortages that are really costing economies trillions of dollars in some parts of the world. So we're going to come back to where this can be win-win, because it can be for the migrant and for the receiving economy. But let's look at that other side, the other side of what we've been talking about over at the World Bank, the 300 million or so people every year these days who are requiring humanitarian assistance. That's like triple the number of 10 years ago, because the number of conflicts, and frankly, natural disaster, drought, flooding, is just impacting on larger and larger scales. And to make matters worse, you mentioned I served in Haiti. Yes, in some countries, sophisticated gangs are now exploiting systems designed to protect migrants and refugees. We see the irregular migration patterns enriching criminal networks. We were talking a moment ago about the scam centers. We see along the border, Thailand, Cambodia, Thailand, Burma. So I want to emphasize, of course, every country in the world has the sovereign right to enforce its borders. That's decide who comes in, for how long, and we all want to discourage that dangerous, irregular migration. It's very dangerous for the migration. We have a project called Missing Migrants, I'll describe in a moment, because tens of thousands of lives are lost. People lost at sea, people crossing a desert. But that's why we want to work with all of the IOM member states, including the United States, to improve conditions where people are now, whether they're in their home country, whether they're on the move within a region. We want to improve the plight of folks who feel forced to leave because of a conflict, because of a flood, because of an earthquake, improve their situation right where they are. So for those of you who have never heard of IOM before, it was created back right after the World War II. US was a leading founder. 187 countries have IOM offices. 97% of our staff is actually in the field. We're very much a field-based organization. The funding model is very different from some other UN agencies, projectized. So when a donor government, like the US, provides an idea for a project, whether it's countering trafficking in persons, whether it's providing shelter in a camp for internally displaced. These are very specific projects, very tied to a model that responds very quickly to a crisis. When the crisis is over, the project is over. So it's a little bit of a different model. So we are the lead in the UN system in most countries on shelter. So whether it's a prefab, whether it's a high-quality campus tent, someplace where things come up very quickly. I saw this in Haiti after one of the earthquakes. You've got IOM in there providing shelter. We also provide WASH, so the water and sanitation. It's not so sexy, latrines, but boy, people need them, and it keeps the level of communicable disease down. The US is actually still the largest bilateral funder for the IOM. And that's important because, again, the US was one of the creators and founding members. Our Director General is elected by all the member states, actually an American. So IOM's relationship here in Washington is an important one for us. IOM focuses on the asks of its member states. I'm going to go back to cross-border and global health security at the very end because it's sort of an unexpected piece of what we're doing now. I want to talk though about human smuggling, counter-trafficking. We see huge issues in Africa, in Latin America, in Asia, where criminal rings are actually trafficking vulnerable populations. This is a $10 billion a year industry that really preys on people's vulnerability. You know, border security can help, and we are working with many of the member state governments on training up their law enforcement so they can identify a victim of trafficking if someone is trying to traffic them across a land border or at an airport. So we work with law enforcement. We actually provide hardware and software also around the world to a number of member states at their requests. And you know, in the Western Hemisphere, aside from so Latin America and the Caribbean, aside from the counter-trafficking piece, as I mentioned, we look for opportunities to work with host governments to help migrants stay and succeed in their host communities. So last summer, I took a bipartisan group of congressional staffers, I was just telling Aaron this, down to the Mexico-Guatemala border, because there was a large group of folks from many different countries who were there, right at that border. And working with both sides, the Mexican government and the Guatemalan government, to help provide shelter, water and sanitation, but also employment opportunities, because many of those folks are going to stay for a while, and then we help return some of the folks who wanted to go home to Colombia, who wanted to go home to Venezuela. And there were folks actually from Africa and Asia there as well, which surprised me and surprised the staffers when we went down there too. But we also help folks if someone is going to be in another country long term, and that country, as I mentioned, has a labor shortage. So in Peru, for example, IOM is helping migrants get professional credentials recognized, so enabling them to get jobs. And naturally, these are going to be Spanish speakers from countries not too far away, but they're not able to go, say, a medical staff, a lab technician, a nurse from Venezuela is in Peru. A little bit long-term at this point. They want to have credentials. They want to be able to work as a lab technician or a nurse. So we help them get those credentials so that they can stay legally, practice as a medical professional, because there's a shortage there in Peru, and the government wants them to integrate. So we're like that matchmaker making that happen. The piece that I find, so interesting right now in the larger UN conversation is this focus on efficiency, reform, making sure that member states' contributions are used wisely and well. So I think we see across the UN landscape enhanced efforts to make sure people aren't sitting in New York and Geneva at the headquarters level, that they're out in the field. And as I said, we were ahead of that curve with 97% field-based. Diversifying funding, having private sector partners, and we are proud that Apple and Google and Microsoft and Airbnb are among our primo American partners. Not just with financial contributions, but also in kind. Airbnb in a natural disaster has provided lodging for the aid workers. Microsoft has done predictive AI modeling for us as well on some of the drought work in Ethiopia, for example. Faith-based organizations, partnering with faith-based organizations and local civil society organizations. Partnering with multilateral development banks, which is why we've been over AI in the UN system. Are you using AI at IOM? The answer is yes. Everybody's got to use AI these days. So we use it internally, but we also make sure that we're leveraging, as I said, some of our private sector partners to work with us. Somalia, really tough place, but using predictive AI data to cite boreholes where communities still are going to have water to use if disaster strikes. So increasing that resilience through the use of predictive AI. In the Pacific Island states, because all of those Pacific Island states are looking at ways to be more resilient with the rising sea levels and many of the other issues that they are facing at an almost existential level, working with AI to scale more predictive capabilities for them, because of the increasingly ferocious storms they are seeing. I'm happy to say, over at the State Department, they created a new bureau, Disaster and Humanitarian Response, just in March, 3 months ago, which brought together a number of the other parts of the U.S. government that were doing the quick, rapid response to natural disasters. And if you look at the disasters that have occurred this calendar year, a number have been out there in those Pacific Island states because of those rising sea levels and their vulnerability. So, this is my main message. Migration is not going away. It's caused both by natural disaster and also man-made disaster, the conflicts. It's a reality. If it's managed well, it can be a tremendous force for growth. Look at the medical personnel I was talking about coming from Venezuela, who are now contributing in Peru. It can be a chance for opportunity. It can be, a chance to find the win-win solution for each region. We should always remember, as I mentioned, it's a human story. When I talk about those missing migrants, last year was one of the deadliest years ever on record. And the numbers that we track in this missing migrants report, it's only because the families have reported them as missing, right? So the number who have actually drowned at sea, the numbers who have perished crossing the Sahara, if no one's reported them as having left and now they're missing, they're not counted in the 82,000 number. Now, the teaser at the beginning was, let's see how it impacts us here today. We are reading every day and hearing every day about this terrible Ebola spike in the DRC, in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And you'd say, well, IOM, what would IOM have to do there? Well, it's our teams who are doing the border surveillance in DRC, in Uganda, in Burundi, Rwanda, and South Sudan. At each of the land borders, at each of the airports, not just the airports in the capitals, but these small landing strips, even out at some of the mining camps. Because the border surveillance is showing how people are moving, and the contact tracing, and the training of medical personnel. So we are actually, and we were very pleased to have had U.S. government, State Department funding come in over the last days and weeks to support that work in those 5 countries. And it's not under control yet, so I think watch that space. When we look at the need for health screening and surveillance operations at these multiple points of entry in the DRC, in these regional airports, these land and water crossings, this is what the UN is all about, because no single country can solve these problems by itself, which is why the U.S. State Department is funding UNICEF and IOM and U.S. NGOs, local NGOs, to do this important work. So when we look at the headlines, just about everything involves people on the move, right? Conflict, violence, natural disaster, communicable diseases. And IOM is there. The U.S. and other member states are in there supporting the UN Migration Agency. And I think my goal today was just to give you a little glimpse. We are a small part of the UN, right? The UN has so many agency funds and programs, but it's kind of your taxpayer dollars who are doing this good work at those borders to combat Ebola. So it doesn't get bigger in that part of Africa, and God forbid, jump across to other parts of the world. So I'm going to go back to what I started with, Paula and Ann. We are so proud to be partnering with you. We're so proud to be a Global Classrooms sponsor, and I am delighted to be here tonight. So thanks so much.
Thank you so much. I think we always learn something new when you come and talk to us, and you make it so real, which is one of the things about the UN. People think of it as distant, a lot of Americans, and they don't realize the job that it plays or that it affects each and every one of us. And that's the benefit of being in a chapter where we can take those ideals and work with them on a local level. So one of the highlights of the meeting is hearing about our annual reports and thanking our members. So I actually just want to show people how many people do different things here. So I'd like the board members and the members of the advisory council to stand so we can thank them, past and future. So. I would then let you miss it. And then I would also like the staff, the program leaders, and the program assistants to stand, because we have a lot of people who play all sorts of different roles. I think we have several people in the hall and in the front, so I have to thank them separately later on. Thank you, Sarah. I see you out there. So. And now I want to turn over the podium to our CEO, Paula Boland, who has served in this role for over 16 years, to present the highlights from the year. But before doing so, I want to introduce her a little bit. And some of you will have heard this before, but for those who are new and are young professionals, I think it's an important story, because Paula is the quintessential example of working hard as an intern, because she started here as a volunteer. Then she worked so hard, they offered her a job, and then she worked her way up the organization, so now that she's the CEO. So, you know, those of you who want to volunteer, we've got plenty of room, and we do really try to take care of you. You become part of the family. So thank you, Paula, for all you do, and please join me in welcoming Paula.
Thank you, Anne. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Thank you very much for joining this year's annual membership meeting. Like Anne did earlier, I would also like to express sincere gratitude to the United Nations Foundation and UNA USA for hosting us this evening and for their ongoing collaboration and support throughout the year. And again, congratulations, Kate, on your new role. I'm very much looking forward to working with you. So, as another year comes to a close, I am proud to report that it has been a strong, productive, and impactful one for UNA NCA, which remains one of the largest and most active chapters in the UNA USA network. As we gather tonight, we are reminded of the indispensable role the United Nations plays in bringing nations together and addressing the most pressing challenges of our time. Our chapter is proud to contribute to this broader movement by demonstrating that local engagement can help drive global impact. Our commitment to UNA NCA's mission to educate, inspire, and advocate for a strong US-UN partnership and a more effective multilateral system has never been more critical. At a time of growing global uncertainty and increasing pressure on international institutions, our work serves as a powerful reminder that international cooperation remains essential to addressing the challenges we face together. So let's talk about the state of UNA NCA. This past year, we undertook a wide range of initiatives designed to foster understanding, dialogue, and collaboration across generations and sectors. Through educational programs, leadership development, public engagement, and advocacy, we continue to strengthen support for the UN and its values throughout the National Capital Region. Like many organizations, we face challenges along the way. Yet, those challenges strengthen our resolve and underscore the importance of our mission. The partnerships we have built, the awareness we have raised, and the impact we have achieved are a testament to the dedication of our members, volunteers, supporters, and partners. I would like to extend my deepest, appreciation to our board of directors, executive committee, advisory council, donors, staff, program assistants, and volunteers. Your commitment, expertise, and generosity make everything we accomplish possible. I am pleased to report that UNA NCA remains in a good financial position. Over the past year, we have continued to strengthen both our operating of our standing committees, including governance, communications, development, memberships, and programs. My sincere thanks to Barton Edgerton, Adam Wolf, Maria Moreno, Joy Edwards, and Outer Park for their work. As well as to all committee members who have contributed their time and expertise throughout the year. So it's all about educating, engaging, and influencing. Throughout the 2025-2026 program year, UNA NCA delivered impactful programs that reach across disciplines, generations, and communities, reinforcing the message that the United Nations matters to Americans and to global well-being. One of the highlights of the year under review was our UNA Gala, held last October at the Embassy of France. The event brought together more than 270 participants from across government, diplomacy, academia, business, and civil society, while raising over $150,000 in support of our mission and programs. And now, I think the most exciting part is to hear directly from our program leaders and beneficiaries. So to share highlights about our signature education program known as Global Classrooms DC, or UN, I'm calling on Himaja Balusa, our Global Education Manager, and Ronan Yu from Cabin John Middle School to the podium.
Hi everyone, thank you for being here. So Global Classrooms has had a really great year. This year we engaged around 1,000 students from over 40 schools. The year-round program focused on key issues ranging from counterterrorism to artificial intelligence and food insecurity. And the program also returned to the Pan American Health Organization this year to host our annual winter training conference. PAHO Deputy Director Mary Lou Valdez delivered the keynote address for the event. Additionally, we returned to the State Department for our 22nd annual Spring Model UN Conference. We welcomed over 400 students who participated in 6 different committees. And this would not have been possible without the contributions of our amazing board members and partners, including USA for UNHCR and IOM, who sponsored a committee on displacement and also acted as policy advisors during the conference. And board members, including Alison Vasquez and Andrew Hyde, also provided overview of key curriculum units. And last but not the least, a huge shout out to our amazing team of program assistants, Chelsea Taylor for designing our curriculum unit on food insecurity, Peter Chu and Kathy Sebastian for being my right hand during our Model UN conferences, and also to Ellie Miller for designing the really nice annual report that you're currently reading, the GCDC annual report. And now I'm going to pass it over to Ronan Yu. He is an 8th grader at Captain John Middle School, and I believe now he's a rising 9th grader. He will be attending Winston Churchill High School. And he served as the Student Secretary General for the Spring Conference, so he will be sharing some insights about his experience with Global Classrooms DC. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula and Imogen, for the warm welcome. Hello, everybody, and good evening. My name is Ronan Yu, an 8th grader in the Montgomery County area, and I'm delighted to have this opportunity to speak to you all today. I wanted to highlight the outstanding impact that Global Classroom DC's programs has had on myself, helping me grow not only as a student, but as a global citizen. I hope that I can speak on behalf of every single participant of GCDC's programs that they have instilled essential virtues of respect, responsibility, and shared resolve within every single person who has walked through their conference doors, myself included. In my 4 years participating in Motto United Nations, I've been to 7 conferences hosted by GCDC, where I truly understood the challenges our world faces and the importance of global cooperation. My Motto United Nations journey has led me to this year, where I had the privilege of being the Secretary General of Global Classroom DC's 22nd Annual Spring Conference, an experience I will never forget. The sense of dedication that Global Classrooms holds to instill the essential qualities within the youth is truly admirable, and I'm so grateful to be a part of this amazing organization.
And to Grace Galumpe, I'm hoping to pronounce her name correctly. Is Grace here? This year.
So I just want to say thank you everybody for your support. Every year we have the wonderful opportunity to host a bunch of students that I feel like one day are going to be the global leaders, the people at the UN, the people leading places like IOM, and it's just really awesome to be part of that journey for them, to help see them grow and get to see them where they're at now, knowing that a few decades in the future they'll be the ones making all of these big decisions that I see on TV, and just knowing that I get to help those people, it's really special. And I want to say this year we had the wonderful opportunity to help 25 more people, 25 more grad fellows. They came from 14 different countries, 10 different states, 9 different universities in the DMV area. We had 13 different sessions, including a trip to the UN for the Global Engagement Summit again, which was great. Last year, unfortunately, we weren't able to have it, but this year we were, and it was a great opportunity for the fellows. They got to network, they got to see where the sausage is made, so to speak, and it was really special. And we also had the wonderful opportunity to take them on a tour to the World Bank, and a lot of them got a lot out of that as well. And once again, our career panels were stacked with an all-star lineup of professionals. Well, some of them are here today that were willing to share their experiences and advice on how to jumpstart your career in this field. But enough of me talking up the program that I'm the manager for. Why don't we hear from one of our fellows and what she has to say about it?
Thank you, Keegan, and hello everyone. My name is Grace Galumpe. I just recently graduated, actually, from the University of Maryland. Master's in Public Policy with a specialization in international security and economic policy, actually. So I'm actually from Nigeria. Among the many countries I mentioned. I'm from Nigeria, and before joining the UNA NCA, I already had some number of experience back in Nigeria. where I worked in the field of conflicts management and peace building. I heard the ambassador speaking a lot about conflicts, and I was like, okay, that's my field. I understand how conflict has actually driven a lot of the chaos we're experiencing in the world today. Speaking of migration, speaking of poverty, speaking of unemployment, and all of those many issues that we are currently experiencing in the world today is caused mostly by conflict. And when I joined the UN, before I joined, I did some work with UNDP, because UNDP does a lot of work in Nigeria for development programs, of course. And I didn't work with the UNDP directly, but we partnered with them to implement some of their programs. And that was the closest I actually got to the UN, until I joined the UNA NCA. And I got even more exposed to the institutional framework of the UN. And it got me to get more interested in the work that the UN is doing. And it was interesting because we joined in a period where the UN is actually experiencing an interesting period, pretty challenging, but then I guess the exposure for me, and I guess for many other fellows, was that the UN is an institution just like any other government institution that we can see, but then it's not something that, just like the government agencies we have, and they have their challenges, and when you have a challenge, when an agency has a challenge, what do? You look into the problem, you try to solve the problem, you make reforms. So the question is, why are we not looking into the same for the UN? Why are we trying to cancel her for the challenges she's having instead of thinking of actually making those reforms? Because the truth is, we're trying to judge the UN by the many violence we're seeing across the world, right? But then what we do not understand is that the UN is actually dealing with conflict at the roots, at the grassroots level. She's actually working to prevent them from happening and not trying to manage those that have already erupted. And so you don't really see, you don't hear so much about them because they've been prevented. This conflict did not happen in the first place, If the UN was not doing anything about it, then truly I tell you would have long experienced the Third World War by now. And all thanks to the UN and the work she's doing through her numerous agencies. I've worked also closely with UNESCO, with UNICEF. If you understand conflict and how it manifests, mostly it's through lack of education. You also have children who are underfed or children who are poor and coming from poor backgrounds with no families to be fed, and then they get recruited into banditry, terrorism, and all of those things. And what the UN is doing through her agencies is actually managing, ensuring that these people have the structural supports that they need that will prevent them from actually being recruited into these, terrorist gangs or these bandits, groups that we are having to experience, causing most of the conflicts around the world. So the truth is the UN is doing so much, and because we do not understand how the UN does her work, we do not appreciate it, because we don't get to hear about the results of her work so much, because of course, there are no violence, nobody talks about it. It has already been managed right at the grassroots level. So I think, for me, the lesson that I learned from my engagement with the UNA NCA is that the UN is doing so much, yet not much is actually being said about what she's doing. And I think what the UN really needs is a lot of PR. Like, we need to be doing a lot of PR for the UN. Like, the UN is doing so much, she's doing a lot, and nobody's talking about it. So I remember on the last day of our program, I was like, you know what, I really want to be a UN ambassador. Like, I want to be talking about the work that the UN is doing, because people are not hearing it. People don't know how much impact that the UN is doing. And recently in Nigeria, we're having a lot, if you've been following the news in Nigeria, you know that it's we're currently experiencing a lot more violence than we have hitherto to this period. And it's because the interventions that UN agencies were providing are no longer there, you know? And so sometimes, because so much work is being done silently, and, you know, results are being, you know, gotten, and people don't get to appreciate the work that the UN is doing. But now that the UN is pulling out, and then we're not seeing much interventions anymore, we are getting to see even more violence that the government is finding it very difficult to contain. So I'm saying that the UN is doing a lot. Not much is being talked about, and I hope that all of us seated here, myself included, and every other fellow, I believe, is more than willing to be the PR for the UN. And we should not give up on the UN, truly. There is a lot of work that has been done by the UN. So much is being done, so much impact has been achieved. And I do hope that the impact, that even though we do not know so much about the impact, that we'll actually still appreciate her work and continue to, you know, give her the necessary support that she needs to continue to be that institution that has been supporting the world and has prevented Third World War. Thank you so much.
Sorry, in my nervousness, I forgot to mention that by the generosity of the Kellogg Foundation and the support of IREX, we had the wonderful opportunity to work with dozens of other programs, fellowship programs around the world to do a research study to understand the impact of fellowship programs across society. And so if you want to know more about that, ask me after, or come talk to Phil, our gracious connection to IREX. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace. But I would be remiss not to mention and thank the core leadership team for our Graduate Fellows Program, including Andrew Hyde, who is out of town, Catherine Marshall as well, attending conferences around the world, the one and only Tom Radcliffe. Steve Mosley, who was instrumental in the entire session. And Judy Estrom, are you here? She told me she was here. Judy! No? Anyway. And seriously, the many of you, like Anne Simmons-Benton, our board chair, who participated in sessions, as well as mentoring. All of our fellows are matched with mentors from our leadership network. So thank you very much for all the good work. Grace spoke about PR. In the UNA world, Grace, we translate that into advocacy. PR is advocacy, which is the other side of what we do. We educate and then we mobilize to action. So perfect segue to call on Sarah Vasil, our advocacy and digital outreach.
Hi everyone. Oh well, that's a tough act to follow. Grace has some really awesome words. Like Paula was saying, advocacy is all about PR. So thank you all for just these couple words I have to say. We have more information in the packet, but I'll just say a couple words. So again, thank you for joining us today at our annual meeting. It's always wonderful to see old friends and to make some new ones. As you all know, this year has been eventful to say the least. In our advocacy work, we have navigated these challenging times through persistence, dedication, and continued commitment to our mission. On Capitol Hill, we regularly meet with representatives from both sides of the aisle, even if they don't want to meet with us, to reinforce an important message. American leadership on the global stage remains as vital as ever. I think in the remarks that we've heard today, that's been demonstrated, but on Capitol Hill, it's a lot harder to get across, and we're more committed to that than ever, especially in these turbulent times. I want to take a moment to thank our board members, staff, program assistants, and everyone who responds to my many emails asking you to participate in meetings and advocacy efforts. Having served in this position for many years, I can confidently say that one of our greatest strengths is our collective voice. When we attend meetings in large numbers or participate in events such as the Advocacy Summit, our message carries greater weight and impact. So thank you for helping me make that happen. Beyond our congressional outreach, we continue to host a variety of programs and events, including coffee chats and special discussions that highlight our priority issues. Just to name a few, this year we hosted Advocating for a Strong U.S.-UN Relationship in Challenging Times, as well as a parallel event during the UN Commission on the Status of Women that focused on equal justice for the LGBTQ+ and immigrant women in the United States. We also remain eager to engage with UNA USA through opportunities such as the Global Engagement Summit at the United Nations General Assembly and the Leadership Conference in St. Louis, Missouri this past year. As always, we welcome opportunities to support the work of the United Nations and advance our mission. I hope you all know that I am always looking for new ideas and opportunities for engagement, so please do not hesitate to share your thoughts and suggestions. Paul is right here if you guys have any suggestions for her. Again, thank you so much for all your work this past year, and as we navigate these, again, turbulent times, I'm grateful for your support, and I hope that we can get through these next couple years in even better standing than in the past. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah, Danielle Dean, who I believe might be online, and the entire advocacy team for your efforts, more critical than ever. And looking forward to the Advocacy Summit coming up for UNA USA. All right. Take a look at the annual reports that are presented to you today. We have a general annual report for the organization, and we also have one for our Global Classrooms DC program, and the one for the Graduate Fellows program is coming up in just a few days. So I want to thank the staff and program assistants for all the work that went into putting these programs together. Thank you very much. So, none of these accomplishments would have been possible without the extraordinary collaborations we have built with a variety of institutions and partners, including the IOM, USA for UNHCR, the UN Information Center in Washington, the Pan American Health Organization, the U.S. Department of State through the IO Bureau, BPIA, we have some members here representing, as well as university think tanks, nonprofit organizations, community groups, as well as private sector leaders. As we look ahead, our success reflects the dedication and passion of our program leaders, staff, volunteer members, and supporters. It's really together that you have helped make UNA NCA stronger, more relevant, and more impactful. So as we look ahead, despite the many challenges around us and around the world, we do so with optimism and purpose. The challenges facing our world are, for sure, significant, but so too is our collective capacity to address them. By continuing to educate, advocate, convene, and inspire, UNA NCA will remain a stronger voice for international cooperation and a powerful force for positive change. So thank you all very, very much. All right. So, it is now time for a very special recognition. This evening, we are privileged to recognize an individual whose career exemplifies the very spirit of advocacy. Again, very good segue. You are. Spirit of advocacy, public service, and principled leadership that this award was created to honor. The Edison W. Dick Advocacy Leadership Award is presented to individuals who demonstrate an unwavering commitment to civic engagement, international cooperation, and the values embodied in the Charter of the United Nations. Named in honor of one of UNA's NCA's most dedicated leaders and advocates that many of us had the honor of meeting and working with. The award recognizes those who have used their voice, influence, and leadership to advance justice, democracy, human rights, and the common good. Congressman Jamie Raskin. Hi, Congressman. Has devoted his career to defending democratic institutions, protecting fundamental rights and freedoms, and advancing policies grounded in dignity, equality, and the rule of law. Throughout his service in Congress, he has been a tireless advocate for democratic governance, civic participation, and international engagement. His leadership reflects a deep understanding that the challenges facing our nation and our world require not only strong institutions at home, but also effective cooperation abroad. Whether championing human rights, supporting international partnerships, or promoting democratic values, Congressman Raskin has consistently demonstrated the courage, integrity, and vision that define exceptional public service. At a time when democracy faces unprecedented challenges around the globe, his voice has remained an ongoing reminder that democratic principles, respect for human rights, and international cooperation are essential to building a more peaceful, just, and sustainable future. For his distinguished leadership, his dedication to public service, and his commitment to the values that unite our global community, UNA NCA is proud to present the 2026 Edison W. Dick Advocacy Leadership Award to Representative Jamie Raskin. So, join me in congratulations. He has become matter pretty busy these days on the Hill, but he has taken the time to prepare a message for us.
Hey everybody, it's Congressman Jamie Raskin from Maryland's beautiful 8th Congressional District. I am shouting out my warmest greetings to all my friends at the United Nations Association for the Greater National Capital Area, including not just DC, but Maryland and also our friends over in Virginia. And I'm truly honored to be receiving the Edison Dick Award. That's meaningful to me, knowing what an extraordinary player he was in terms of promoting international law and a commitment to international institutions and international work on behalf of peace and justice and the global community. So I don't know that I deserve your beautiful award, but I will certainly work to deserve it every day that I am in public office and even beyond, because it's so critical for us to be drawing everybody together, to make it clear that the Earth is a very small place and we need to be working together to reverse the processes of climate change, to promote international progress and development and abolish all of the vectors of disease and hunger that are undermining life and the possibility of a meaningful democratic community everywhere. So I am on your side. I want to thank you for the great work that all of you do. I want to thank the family of Edison W. Dick for sharing his memory and his person. May his memory indeed be a blessing to all of you, as it will be to everybody who is working towards international law, international cooperation, and the diplomatic resolution of international conflicts. So we're not constantly replaying the nightmare of injustice and international conflict and war. So thank you for everything you guys do, and thank you for the honor of this award. Hang tough, everybody, and I hope to see you soon.
I like that, hang tough. So now I have the honor of presenting the Arthur W. Johnson Leadership Award. And this award is given to a former long-term board and advisory council member for exemplary and long-term service based upon Arthur Johnson's leadership. And I'm pleased to present it to Sam. But many of you know Sam, but I'm going to tell you a little bit more about him. We were lucky to have him for a while, but before that, he really shaped the international NGO sector's impact on global development and humanitarian action. He was a leader at Interaction from 2006 to 2022. That's a long time in one place. And Interaction is the umbrella for all the NGOs in that space. So it is a very powerful space, as well as Plan USA from 1995 to 2006. He championed human welfare and rights, influenced UN and government policies, and provided a fresh vision from US NGOs in those platforms before he even came to UNA NCA. As some of you may know, he's also the author of a recent book, which we highlighted here at UNA NCA and at the Society for International Development. It is called Prisoners of Hope. I can highly recommend it. I actually took it to me when I was asked to speak at the Interfaith 20 in Cape Town, and I kept referring to it for different ideas on a particular topic. So I think we might make it, mandatory reading as a fellows program. So the Prisoners of Hope book explores the successful drive for positive change and the evolving role of US-based NGOs with the global movement for justice and sustainability. He uses fresh insights, personal anecdotes, and collective wisdom. And this book offers a nuanced analysis of the challenges and opportunities facing US NGOs. In his book, he focuses and reflects on the power of collective advocacy in highlighting lessons. And we have heard that a number of times today, that collective action and that collective advocacy. Sam brought that wisdom and energy about collective advocacy to UNA NCA, where he chaired the advisory council for 4 years and also served on the board of directors as an officer. He brought a career full of insight and drew out the best recommendations of the advisory council, which has many great experts on it. It was for me truly a pleasure to watch him bring various leaders and experts together and develop consensus recommendations on critical geopolitical issues where the U.S. could play a critical role at the UN. And getting a consensus, and I served at the World Trade Organization, and consensus is tough. He was marvelous and magical to watch. So it is my pleasure to virtually present the award to Sam and ask him to share a few words with us from his new home. Hi, Sam.
Good evening, and thank you, Anne, for the kind words. And I'm really honored to receive the Arthur Johnson Leadership Award. And I want to begin by thanking Paula and all the UNA NCA board staff and fellow members with whom I had the great pleasure to work so closely over the past 6 years at UNA NCA as a volunteer. Your commitment to building support from the United Nations is more important today than at any time in my professional lifetime. Leadership is never an individual achievement. It's always a collective endeavor. And receiving an award named after Arthur W. Johnson is particularly meaningful because he understood something fundamental. Institutions matter, but people matter even more. The United Nations is not simply buildings in New York or Geneva or Nairobi. It's an idea, a belief that countries and people can solve problems through dialogue rather than force, cooperation rather than isolation, and shared humanity rather than fear. Throughout my career, whether working as a humanitarian organizations or development agencies or civil society networks, I've seen both the strengths and the shortcomings of the UN system. Like any human institution, is imperfect. It can be slow, bureaucratic, and frustrating. I have seen UNHCRs help prevent famine, and this is where the successes come in. I've seen peacekeepers create space for fragile communities to recover. I've seen refugee families find safety and dignity. And I've seen global agreements reduce disease, expand education, save lives, and protect human rights. Most importantly, I've seen the UN create a common table where people who profoundly disagree with each other can still engage with one another. That role is especially important today. We're living through a period of growing polarization, rising nationalism, increased conflict, and declining trust in international multilateral institutions. Many people question whether multilateralism still works. The answer is simple. The alternative works even less, and it's a prescription for war. The challenges before us, climate change, pandemics, forced displacement, conflict and poverty, and the threats to democracy do not stop at national borders. They require cooperation. They require international norms and ideals. They require leaders and institutions capable of bringing people together, something that is sorely missed here at home. This is why I've spent much of my career looking for common ground around the UN's values and principles. Not because everyone agrees on every issue, but because there are certain foundational ideas worth defending. Human dignity, peaceful resolution of disputes, international law, human rights, and the belief that every person has equal worth. These principles belong to no political party or nation. They belong to humanity. Today, supporting the UN may feel more difficult than it did in the past. Our political winds are harsh. Our government's priorities are harmful and destructive. Funding has been slashed, harming or killing millions. Yet moments of uncertainty are precisely when support for our shared ideals matter most. The responsibility for sustaining international cooperation does not belong only to diplomats and governments. It belongs to us as citizens. It belongs to educators, students, nonprofits, faith communities, businesses, and organizations like UNA NCA. The UN is always dependent upon people willing to advocate for more cooperation and a more just world. So tonight I accept this award not as a recognition of past work, but as a reminder of the work that remains. We must continue building bridges across differences. We must continue defending institutions that help prevent conflict and advance human dignity. And we must continue believing that collective action is possible, even when the challenges seem overwhelming. As Archbishop Desmond Tutu often reminded us, we are called to be prisoners of hope, not because hope is easy, but because it is a choice to act despite uncertainty. Thank you for this honor, thank you for your commitment to the United Nations, and thank you for building a world of more peaceful and just place. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. I'm virtually presenting you the award, and I want to come and see your beautiful new home that we could see in the background there. And really, thank you for your moving words. We really miss having you here in person. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then now we have the Evelyn Falkowski Volunteer Service Award, which Paula will present because she's going to do a better job than I would, because I was going to tell some stories.
All right, many moving pieces. We're getting through. This evening, we have the privilege of recognizing an individual whose dedication, leadership, and commitment to our mission made a lasting impact on our chapter. The Evelyn Falkowski Volunteer Service Award honors individuals who exemplify the spirit of volunteerism, service, and leadership that Evelyn Falkowski demonstrated throughout her many years of commitment to UNA NCA. This award celebrates those who generously contribute their time, talents, and expertise to strengthen our organization and advance the ideals of the United Nations. It is especially fitting that this year's award is presented to Aaron Sean Poynter. Aaron's leadership was instrumental in the planning and execution of our UNA Gala last October. I would say, because you heard, I've been around for some years, one of the most successful events in our chapter's history. Through his vision, strategic guidance, and unwavering commitment to excellence, Aaron helped bring together leaders from diplomacy, government, business, academia, and civil society to celebrate the enduring importance of the United Nations and the power of international cooperation. The gala not only commemorated the 80th anniversary of the UN, but also strengthened awareness of our mission, expanded our network of supporters and partners, and generated critical resources to support our educational, advocacy, and leadership development programs. The event's success was a direct reflection of Aaron's ability to inspire collaboration, mobilize support, and transform ambitious ideas into meaningful results. He was pushing. Beyond the gala itself, Aaron is it's been on our board for 6 years now. He's finishing his second term, and has demonstrated a deep commitment to service and leadership during this time, consistently contributing his expertise, energy, and enthusiasm to advance the work of our chapter. His willingness to step forward when we truly only had a few months to organize and execute this gala. So his willingness to step forward, build partnerships, and support UNA NCA's growth exemplifies the very qualities this award was established to recognize. Aaron's contributions remind us that strong organizations are built not only through vision, but through dedicated volunteers who generously invest their time and talents in service to a cause greater than themselves. So for all of this, it is an honor for UNA NCA to present you with the 2026 Evelyn Falkowski Volunteer Service Award.
I wanted to say that.
He said it. Thank you very much. Say a couple words. Thank you, Paula. Thank you, Ann. Can't wait to hear those stories later, probably at the bar. But this is very meaningful. Thank you very much. It does deeply mean a lot to me. It even means more coming from a previous recipient of the award. You received this in how long ago?
Many years ago.
Many years ago. That's all I should
When
say.
I was a volunteer.
See, that's what happens. That's what I'm worried. Is this like a career progression thing? You start as a volunteer, you get an award, and next thing you know, I'm going to be asked to be executive director. That's how it happens, right? But it's bittersweet to receive this award. I'm deeply honored, but as she mentioned, it's also the culminating point of my second board term. And so I think actually tonight might even be the last night for me, right? So it all ends tonight. Pass the tissues. But it's truly been an honor. I must say though, for the first 3 years, my first board term, if there was a Slacker of the Year award, I probably would have got that because I didn't do too much. It was, in my defense, it was over COVID. But hopefully I made that up on my second board term and with the UN Gala. I think much of this award, which was alluded to, had to do with my efforts in leading the UN Gala. And I must say, I did not do that alone. It was not possible for me to do that alone. From the leadership all the way at the top, to the interns whose first day was at the gala. They probably quit after that because it was quite stressful. Everyone played an important part to make this happen. And I must say, it wasn't easy, and you know this, and there was some skepticism. As Grace alluded to earlier, you know, it was a tough time for the UN. It was a tough time in Washington. We had an administration that didn't view the UN favorably. Everyone was getting their budgets cut, so we had no clue if we were going to get sponsorships or even people to show up. And yet we hoped for the best. She grilled me to get the job. It was like, you know, she called me in one day and she put the spotlight in my eyes and she turned up the heat. She started asking me a lot of tough questions. And I said, you know, Ann, just relax. This is just like throwing a party. And I've thrown lots of parties. And she goes, well, how do I know you can throw a good party? I said, just look up my police record. She did. I got hired for the job. And everything that we asked for at the outset, we got it. In 6 weeks of time. That was it. We wanted the French embassy, the best venue to throw the party. We got it. We wanted the French ambassador to show up. We got it. We wanted a big name sponsor with Accenture. We got it. We wanted CNN to host it. And we got Jim Sciutto there. And we got CNN to host it. Most importantly, this organization can't exist without the volunteers, but also without the money that we need to do our mission. We set a fundraising goal, but like all fundraising goals, she also gave me a stretch goal. We blew away the stretch goal. We raised probably more money than ever because of everyone's here hard work and contributions. So I would like to dedicate this award, not only for me, but for everyone who played a part, whether you raised $1 or you took a coat from a guest, no matter what you did, it wouldn't have been possible without all of you. Thank you very much. We'll see one final thing. It is my last board term, but this place is like Hotel California, I heard. You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. I think they've got another job lined up for me, and I look forward to working with everybody in the next few years. Thank you very much.
And what Aaron said is true. I was really nervous, and I totally grilled him, because I'm a lawyer, like he was on the witness stand. And he really gathered the support of everyone, and so people just worked really well because of his enthusiasm. And as I said, a lot of the donors were friends of Aaron. So I want to now thank our nominating committee. Oh, and by the way, I know how to change bylaws, so don't worry. But I want to recognize this year's nominating committee led by Barton Edgerton, who is not able to be here. It was a very robust and competitive nominations process, and many strong candidates applied for and or nominated. And we had more nominees than board seats. We encouraged those who did not make it to work on committees and programs during the year to continue to help UNA NCA and to run again.
Like another gala.
Yeah, like another gala, yeah. I also want to thank Bart and the whole committee for the hard work, and to let you know that diversity in all our goals were taken into consideration. So since Barton is here, I would ask Jessica Tillett, who was nominating committee and board member, to give us the results.
Yeah, I was on this page just 1 year ago, so I'm still kind of new myself, but I'm really, really excited to welcome our new members, and I apologize in advance if I don't capture your name perfectly. So, Ann Simmons-Benton, board chair.
For a second.
For the second time. Shannon Hayter, vice chair of the advisory council. If I call your name, can you please stand up so we can acknowledge you? Danielle Bean, vice chair of advocacy. There she is. Allison Viescas, vice chair of finance and treasurer. Joy Edwards, Vice Chair of Membership and Volunteer Engagement. Audrey Park, Vice Chair of Programs. Kristen Hecht, Vice Chair and Secretary. Olawatosin Pinmiloye, Graduate Student Representative. Kendra Brown, Director at Large. Jacqueline Hatch, Director at Large. Andrew Hyde, Director at Large. Catherine Canham, Director at Large. Last but not least, Director at Large.
Now, this is the hard thing, because we really don't want to say goodbye.
That is Hotel California.
Hotel California, I like that. So Brian, who served as our Vice Chair of Finance, and was a board member for many years. Sam, as you've heard, with the Advisory Council. Sean Baker Garcia really gave us a new evaluation methodology for the Graduate Fellows Program, and we were glad to have her. Going to go to Erin, who, you know, we've just heard all about. And then last but not least, if I was going to give an all-star award, and he's already received so many awards, it's Tom Bradley. And if you heard the Graduate Fellows cheer for him, it's because he is so beloved. And he has served 15 of the last 17 years doing various things. And now it is my honor to ask him to come up, Tom, and to present an award on the Richard and Ann Griffiths Program Leadership.
I know Paula told me I only have 3 minutes, so I'll make it quick. But while we were in New York for the Global Engagement Summit, as a bunch of grad fellows were leaving to go find lunch, I was at the top of an escalator there at the Hilton, and a bunch of grad fellows were leaving, and a couple of people who it turns out were Columbia University students asked me, "Why were all those people getting pictures made with you? Are you like a movie star?" I said, "No, they just need something for LinkedIn or whatever." But when I told them what the Grad Fellows program was, they sounded jealous. A couple of Columbia students sounded jealous. I think the word colleague is one of the most sublime words in the English language. You don't have to be on the same team to be a colleague. You don't have to be co-workers to be a colleague. You have to be part of a movement that strives toward the same goals. Everyone in this room has the potential to be a colleague of all the rest of us as we work to try to strengthen the UN by advocating for it and advocating for strong U.S. leadership, participation and funding of the UN, and as we advocate for that, as we educate the American public, as we advocate for it. I think we have at least 7 grad fellows here, former grad fellows from the last 4 or 5 years. The ones who I've seen include Tosin Penmaloya, who is now going to be the student rep on the board, 2 other incoming board members, Jackie Hatch and Haley Pottle. And the ones who I've seen, aside from them, are Grace Galunche, Olivia Dunn, Mia Cleary, I think is there, and Valerie Bro, I think, walked in. There you are. Walked in a few minutes ago.
And Keegan.
And who else? Keegan, but I'm talking about the folks who are in the program. So we really appreciate your stepping up, Haley, Mia, and Tosin, stepping up to be board members. Thanks so much. but from ambassadors to interns to brand new State Department employees. I just ran into a new State Department employee who I think has walked out of the room in the last 10 minutes, named Reese. She's from Texas by way of the University of Miami, and now is working in the office that works on human trafficking in the State Department. And just incredibly important work, which Richard and Ann Griffiths devoted a lot of their lives to, the human rights work. We all have the capability to work on human rights, particularly for those who are underprivileged, those who are in conflict zones, in places of natural or man-made disasters, people who are struggling to find the means to live and the right to do so. We all can take Richard and Ann as our examples. Richard was the president of the UNA chapter in Connecticut before they moved to DC. Moved to DC, and he was the vice president for programs, one of Audrey Park's predecessors from several years ago. Richard and Ann devoted much of their lives to human rights work. Richard, as I recall, was chair of the Human Rights Committee for perhaps 10 years or more before he passed away, I think on the eve of the Human Rights Award dinner about a little more than 10 years ago. Ann likewise has passed on, but they both devoted great effort to the human rights work of the United Nations and outside the context of the United Nations. Ann was on the what is now the National Council of UNA USA as a faith representative there. Very important work. And it continues today with new generations taking over and taking on that critical work. It's one of the great legs, one of the great posts that upholds the United Nations. Now for Audrey Park, who clearly deserves this Program Leadership Award that's given in the name of Richard and Ann Griffiths. They were great advocates for human rights, and as Vice President for Programs, as I said, he was one of Audrey's predecessors. She has taken on that role of Vice Chair for Programs, which I did and stumbled through for a couple of years before cooler heads prevailed. But Audrey has really excelled at that job. It's like herding cats. Have 8 strong program committees that work on everything from African affairs to young professionals. And they all have strong leaders, and it's a really difficult thing that she has excelled at to ensure that every one of those committees had leaders who would lead and who would take on the task that each of those individual committees took on, and to try to coordinate the programs that they put on and to deconflict things when they needed to be deconflicted. I'm really thrilled that Audrey has agreed to continue on the board with this new election. So thank you so much, and I'd like to present the Richard and Ann Griffiths Program Leadership Award to Audrey Park.
Thank you, Tom, for making it seem so clear what it is I actually do. Thank you. I'm so genuinely honored to receive the Richard and Ann Griffiths Program Leadership Award. And usually a lot of my public speaking takes place in front of students grades 5 through 8. And if you have not addressed a room full of 10 to 13-year-olds, I can tell you and assure you that it's a humbling experience. They're not easily impressed. So you guys will at least have to applaud politely when I'm done. So I look forward to that. I was surprised when I learned I'd be receiving this award because, as Tom so greatly pointed out, there are so many faces in this room who have contributed so extensively with their expertise and their time. Tom drives 3 hours from Richmond to continue the work that he does. And so I'm greatly humbled and honored that you would consider me for this award. The creation of this award, the UNA NCA Richard and Ann Griffiths Program Leadership Award, was intended to hold them in our memories and to inspire us to continue to do the work that they left for us to do. I actually looked it up because Paula shared with me that Richard and Ann passed away in 2011 and in 2014, respectively. They were beloved by their community, their friends, and their family. They have been described as amazing, genuine, and altruistic. They were humanitarians in the strongest sense. Anne brought light, peace, compassion, and laughter to everyone around her, and she assumed leadership roles here within the Church Women United. Anne and Richard, in 1970, moved with their 2 sons, Roger and Jeffrey, to Lagos, Nigeria. Is Jeffrey? No, they're not here. To serve as co-directors of a relief and reconstruction project. And in 1980, they moved to Hartford, Connecticut, where for 13 years, Richard was senior minister at Emmanuel Congregational United Church of Christ. I particularly noted in Richard's obituary that at Richard's core, and in all of the work that he did throughout his life, there was a quiet determination to create a more just and peaceful world. It wasn't until 2015 that I happened to stumble, I will say stumble, on UNA NCA through an internet search. I was an overzealous parent looking for Model United Nations program for my oldest daughter, who was in 5th grade and 10 years old at the time. My daughter, Jaya, who is actually here, a rising senior at the University of Southern California, is here tonight. I discovered UNA NCA's Model UN program, Global Classrooms DC, and I showed the integrative, expertly designed program to our school principal. The principal applauded the program, but kindly turned the idea down. Her teachers already had too much on their plates. I didn't realize it at the time, but my journey with UNA NCA began in that principal's office. I volunteered to organize the school's first Model UN club, even though I had no personal experience with Model UN. I figured, what's the worst that could happen? Well, over 30 5th graders signed up for Model UN that year. And I can tell you that it didn't look like Richard and Anne's quiet determination to create a more just and peaceful world. But what I can tell you is that I witnessed the results of the Griffiths' work and their commitment, and the work of so many other committed members of UNA NCA play out in that classroom and in classrooms of hundreds of students for the last 10 years. I witnessed the mission of UNA NCA to increase public support for the United Nations and to prepare, present, and future leaders to work for a better world. All of that materialized in our classrooms as students gain knowledge of their global citizenship, develop self-agency, and informed voices through UNA NCA's education and outreach. UNA NCA equipped me to be a leader, and those 5th graders, they went on to advocate for just causes at their dinner tables, inform their peers, punctuate their school assignments with a deeper understanding of the world around them, to serve as student secretary generals for UNA NCA's Model UN conference at the U.S. Department of State, and give speeches to challenge students to think diplomatically and to look for common ground. Host Model UN conferences at their local middle and high schools, inviting hundreds of local students. Initiate programs for local and global causes, and be admitted and graduate from many of the top colleges in the country. They will go out into the world and contribute to the makings of a just and peaceful world with both loud and quiet determination. I'd like to end by saying, with so many challenges still ahead, the work that UNA NCA does, the work that you do, and the contributions that you make, will remain critical to creating a better world. And I'm honored to do my part to work alongside you and to get us closer to that goal this year. Thank you.
Audrey, you are amazing and inspirational. I have been very inspired by our many speakers tonight. Tonight, you saw it. Over 1,000 students from Title I public schools to private academies across DC, Maryland, and Virginia, stepping into the role of diplomats at the State Department through Global Classrooms DC. Graduate fellows from Georgetown, GW, Johns Hopkins, American, in 14 countries, building careers that connect them to the UN system through a program UNA NCA has run since 1991, and may be a future ambassador at the UN. This is what your support makes real. And at a time when the US-UN relationship and the very idea of international cooperation is being questioned, the question is not whether this work should continue. It is whether people can find us and stand with us is what counts. Tonight, we are launching our annual appeal, running through UN Day in October and into year-end giving. And we hope we may have an annual event, but we will let you know. We will be reaching out to you and to our broader community to make it, not to make a case for the UN as an institution, but to make a case for what happens right here in our neighborhoods when people choose to invest in the principles behind it. You will hear from us, and when you do, I hope you will say yes. So please stay with us and enjoy the reception.